Generation Landfill, and you need to know this information. You've got to know this information. It's very, very critical. It is something that worries people every single day. Every day, there is a person who is crying. Every single day, there is a person who's finding out that they have a family member who has cancer. Every single day, we are finding out new information. And you need to have this information. You deserve to have this information. Again, from my perspective, I want to give this to you. The moms want to give this to you. But I also believe that you need to make your own determination. But you should not allow one entity to just tell you everything's fine, and then you find out later on that you have cancer or an autoimmune disease. You don't deserve that. You deserve better than that. So over the course of years, which the moms, Dawn and Karen, will explain to you, there are many things that happened in our region. A lot of decisions that were made, not in the benefit of human life. And now we're dealing with that, the costs of not dealing with keeping our environment safe. And so I'm going to hand it over to the moms. They do an absolutely marvelous job, but this is information for you. This is not the last time we're having a meeting. I'm doing about 9 or 10 meetings throughout the district in the first 2 weeks of November so that you guys can tell your friends about what we are talking about tonight and the same information that has been delivered again and again and again throughout the region. Again, this is for you, and we want to answer questions, and I am going to hand it over to Dawn and Karen. These two women have made some incredible sacrifices. I'm not going to even talk about the sacrifices, but literally, these are the champions. These are the people who I think about every single day because of the personal sacrifices that they're making for our entire region. These are the women that you should thank. These women.
Well, I'm going to stand over here if that's okay. Can you guys hear me okay? My name is Karen Nickel. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Maria Chakal-Nadal for asking us to speak, and to the pastor for asking us to speak with you guys tonight. We'd like to take up any chance we can to get out in the community and talk with people and educate them and spread awareness about this issue. So, I grew up in Hazelwood, and I grew up in the subdivision where some of you might have been hearing lately that they found radioactive waste in St. Sin Park and in some of the houses in their backyards. That was the neighborhood that I lived in as a child. I do not live there any longer. And after living there for about 10 years and moving on and becoming an adult at about 35 years old, I found out that I have systemic lupus. And sometimes it's very disabling, and sometimes I can't get out of bed, and it is an autoimmune disease, in case you don't know what that is. And so in 2012, November of 2012, after learning about the Coldwater Creek Just the Facts Facebook page and learning about other people that were experiencing illnesses, I decided to go out and search my old neighborhood and find out how my former neighbors and children and their children were doing, and found that at least 15 people on my street alone had died of cancer. Rare cancers, and cancers that were occurring in people that were my age and that were back, 40, 30 years old. Brain cancers, liver cancers, kidney cancers, the list just kept going on and on. I also found out that there were 4 other people on my street within just a few block radius that they were all women that had lupus. And up until my diagnosis, I didn't even know what lupus was, so I thought that was kind of strange. And then there was also infertility. Some of my friends are infertile and were never ever able to have children, as well as MS and rheumatoid arthritis and all other kinds of diseases you can imagine. So fast forward, I now live 1.8 miles away from Westlake Landfill. I've been raising my own children there for the past 20 years. I learned about the radioactive waste at Westlake when I went to a FOOSRAP meeting, which is the Army Corps of Engineers, who is doing the cleanup all over North County of the radioactive waste. And after that meeting was over, I spoke with a gentleman named Ed Smith with the Missouri Coalition for the Environment, who informed me that there was a landfill that also contained the same waste. And after researching, found that that landfill was, like I said, just 1.8 miles away from my house. My parents had no idea, when I was growing up, that their children were being exposed to nuclear weapons waste from the Manhattan Project. I know now, where I live at Westlake, that there's nuclear weapons waste from the Manhattan Project there, and I am going to do everything that I can in my power to protect my kids. So I created the Westlake Landfill Facebook group, and it grew rather rapidly. I found out that I wasn't the only one that didn't know about the landfill. There were many neighbors and friends, and we are now up to almost 17,000 people on the page, with an increase of about 10,000 people in the past 2 weeks. So we're rather busy with trying to explain and educate people, because believe it or not, maybe some of you, there are a lot of people that have no idea what is happening here in St. Louis. A lot of people that have no idea what role St. Louis played in the Manhattan Project. And Dawn's going to get into that a little bit later. So, So one thing I want to point out to you right now, before we get into all of this, is that this is a letter from Senator Kit Bond back in 1996.
Almost 20 years ago.
Almost 20 years ago, that talks about the nuclear weapons waste in North County and how dangerous it is, and that it needs to be cleaned up. Like I said, my parents didn't know anything about that. And I don't know how many of you knew, or how many of your parents knew, but where I grew up, no one knew that this was going on. And this is proof that there were people that knew that this was happening.
Yeah, I want to point out the next paragraph, because I think that this is really heartbreaking, and this is kind of one of the reasons we're here tonight, guys. It states that this is all clearly DOE's responsibility. It says, you should know that in St. Louis there are more off-site contaminated properties above Department of Energy standards than at Rocky Flats, Idaho National Engineering Laboratory, Los Alamos, and Sandia combined. So that is shocking. We have more in St. Louis than those places combined, and it's off-site. This letter is referring to contamination spread all over North County. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Do me introduce myself? You do yours.
So we created a Just Moms STL nonprofit group so that we could further our outreach and some of the things that we have been working on, and you're going to hear all about the Westlake landfill and how dangerous it is and what's going on there. But one thing I want you to keep in mind when you're hearing about that stuff is that we have implemented 3 goals that we want to see happen. And you guys can read these if you want. One's permanent relocation. We have people that are living 0.5 miles away from the landfill that are breathing this toxic waste and fearing for their life every day, 365 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we want a property assurance, and we want the Army Corps of Engineers to take over the Westlake landfill, take over the jurisdiction of the Westlake landfill. We're going to get into all of that, but I want you guys to